What is up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is Legally Caffeinated. I'm Frank Esquire, and this is
Schwab Esquire with my coffee.
And we are Legally Caffeinated. And we're breaking down Loki episode 2 again. One of the main questions that I have, I think, Shu, you have it too, is the TVA, are the Time-Keepers, are they bad? What are they? That's a
good question.
Is Loki good? Where are we going with this series, with this show? And one of the things that I find to be the most interesting scenes of the show really gets you thinking. The legal breakdown really makes me want to break down. Is when Loki and Mobius, they're talking about who created the TVA, who created Mobius and Free Will.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, I watched the show again, both episodes, and I gotta say this show has great rewatch value because there's so much that you could miss if you only watch it once. But one of the keys that I pulled out, or that I remembered, was that the Time-Keepers, they came into existence after everybody else, like human beings, and it was kind of like the multiverse happened because people were just doing, I guess, crazy things, and then the Time-Keepers came about in order to put everything back in order. And I guess they instituted some rules in order to make sure people don't go off their timelines. However, I also think that the Time-Keepers, Loki made a point, right? Loki said that the Time-Keepers, this is all one big, what did he call it? He said it's all fake. It's not real. This is a measure of control. You're using it because you're weak and you have to control people. Because Loki, he said the reason why he wanted to be, to rule over Earth is because freedom and choice is a burden. Because if you make the wrong choice at a fork in the road, you can ruin your life. And he's there to take control for everybody else. Which seems the Time-Keepers are doing the exact same thing that Loki wants to do.
Right. They've set out a predetermined timeline, the sacred timeline. And anybody who does something that creates a branch off the timeline, does something that they're not supposed to do. So at some point, the three Time-Keepers, which I'm assuming will meet at some point, is Mobius, is he one of the Time-Keepers? I don't know. I see I see some theories out there. Is Loki, does he become a Time-Keeper? Are the Time-Keepers just immortal beings, or do they change hands over time, right?
They can't be immortal because they said that they came about to put everything that was back into order.
Right, okay, so they have a predetermined, they're in charge, they're in their office, they're whittling away at the timeline, they've decided that these are the things that are going to happen, and we need some sort of mechanism to stop people from exercising free will. So basically it's control is what they want, and control is what they have. But they only have control by means of the hunters, and that's really it.
Yeah, because anybody else can go off of their timeline anytime without even knowing it, right? So imagine if you know about the power to change your timeline, could you do it? And would you even know you are? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems kind of, if you start thinking about it, it's like how, I like the one scene, and we can take a look, where Mobius says, if you think about it too much, you start to see how ridiculous everything is. Yeah. And it's true. I feel like that's like a perfect, when they were writing the show, they made it to the point where if you think about it too much, you just think in circles. But you're right. If you think about it, basically what it comes down to is that the Time-Keepers, they're all powerful in the sense they can write out time. But then the mechanism by which they control the timeline are humans or hunters, and that's it. And the time reset pieces, or the time reset charges. That's it. Because they don't have any other technology to really control time besides humans controlling variance, and that's it.
because it's the way that they Mobius tells Loki while they're having the conversation, when Loki asks him, what is the end game? Like, how does it all end? And Mobius says, once everything is placed into some perfect order, everything is peaceful, and then his job is finished, right?
Right.
But how does that happen? One, that means the Time-Keepers are not all powerful, because if they were, and they wanted everything to be peaceful, they would just cause it to be peaceful, right? They would just say, boom, things are done, everything's peaceful. They would change it in a second. So they're not all powerful. But two, that would mean Mobius wouldn't have a purpose anymore. Like he said, I have a glorious purpose to make sure people stay on the sacred timeline. Now, once things are peaceful, what happens to Mobius?
Right. Where did he come from? Is the question I want to know. I mean, he says he was created by the Time-Keepers. The Time-Keepers created the TVA and everything in it. So, like, have you noticed? It was kind of one of the things that brought up about WandaVision is that there were no kids there, right? There's no kids in the TVA or at the TVA. It's only adults. And were they created as adults? Did he just wake up one day as Mobius and his current age? Does he age? He already said time works differently there.
Exactly.
But are there schools in the TVA? Everyone has different jobs. So
is there day and night? Do they go home? Do they sleep? Right? I mean, they do eat. They eat and drink.
Like, what are they? Are they humans? Yeah, they eat, they drink. Are they humans? Where did they come from? I have a theory, though. I was watching it again last night, and I was thinking that everybody in the TVA, they weren't created by the TVA, right? They were plucked. They were plucked from timelines, meaning the Time-Keepers. They took these people out of their own respective timelines or periods of time and placed them in the TVA, and now they work for the TVA. I don't think
that makes sense.
I don't think that the Time-Keepers created Mobius and everything in it. I think it's an illusion, is what you're going to find out that it is, by the Time-Keepers, and they've plucked these people out of their respective timelines, and they put them in charge of keeping order to the secret timeline.
That makes a lot of sense. You know why? Because I was thinking, why in this world, the TVA world, everything looks so similar to Earth, right? They drink the same stuff. Their furniture is made out of the same things, right? Where'd you get the wood from for Judge Slayer's office, right? Everything and it's set in a timeline or a time that seems outdated compared to how things look outside the futuristic world. Thing is, we never see anybody ever go outside, right? Nobody ever leaves that place, but inside of that building where they all work, it's very old. Even the clothes they wear are old clothes. And the office she sits in is an old office, and they've been through time, right? It's that's a very interesting thing. Maybe they weren't created for that job, but they were taken, and then now they're being repurposed.
Yeah, you know what I thought was interesting about that is that when that conversation between Mobius and Loki is that when they're talking back and forth about how the TVA created Mobius and everything in it, at no point does Loki say, okay, like, well, do you have a family? Do you have a mother? Do you have a father? Do you remember growing up? Like, what's your background? Where did you grow up? I would like to see him ask that question, and I think the response would be is that Mobius probably just doesn't remember.
Exactly, he won't remember. Yeah, you're right. He probably doesn't know at all.
I feel like it's kind of like WandaVision in the sense that someone's controlling them to do these things. They don't have any memories of their past lives or where they came from, and they've been pruned and put in place by the TVA to control this sacred timeline. And I think you're going to find out that this, the Time-Keepers, it's self-serving. They like the timeline, and it's less about order and harmony, and it's more about keeping things, keeping themselves in power. Because if without with chaos or with multiple branches of the timeline, the Time-Keepers, what would their power be? They'd be writing a predetermined fate for people that don't have to abide by it.
Exactly. And what's also interesting is Loki. I'm really starting to develop an appreciation for Loki's character, because it seems his superpower isn't really the magic he can do or the power he has. It's his mind, right? He's kind of unassuming in that people beat him up a lot. People laugh at him. They think he's not as powerful as he thinks he is. But I think the way he's acting this whole time, he's figuring out what the Time-Keepers are. He's kind of in an experiment. He's completing a puzzle, right? He's working out a puzzle in his mind right now, and he's trying to figure out what's really going on. I think you can tell that by how he's asking questions. He's gaining the trust of Mobius. He's doing different things, I think, in a way to figure out what's going on, but they can't tell, right? Even that scene inside that barn when he tries to tell them don't go outside. I don't think his plan wasn't to escape them. His plan was to try to kind of see how he can work them. Right. And then when it didn't work, he says, that's good. I'm moving on to the next step. But I think Loki is a genius. I think that's really his power, right? Yeah. He knows what his limitations are, but he knows, like he said, what did he say about the God of Mischief? He said that he listens. His eye is sharp. His ear is sharper than his mind.
He said,
right?
I think it's where there are wolves' ears, wolves' teeth are nearby.
Yeah, he's very, very, very observant. Mm-hmm. I think he's paying attention. He's seeing things that they don't know he's seeing.
Where do you think the reset charges went? I think I have a theory that they went because that Loki, Lady Loki, Sylvie, whoever she turns out to be, she specifically said, I don't want to control the TVA. And so I think that and if you look, they went various places. One of the places I think was Asgard. I think they're going back in time to basically take down the TVA, not run it or control it. And that's where I think that a lot of these people, I think they were plucked from moments in history, and that's why they're running and that's where the Time-Keepers got their TVA agents.
Maybe what she's doing is she's sending those those time converters back to change what the TVA stopped, right? Those divergent paths, because obviously she's what she's, I think, ultimately going to do is she's going to expose what the TVA truly is, whether they really exist or they're just somebody's lie to control the people in the TVA and ultimately control people, right? Because think about it, if you can convince these people that the people we're kidnapping and taking from Earth have done something wrong, then you can take as many as you want, little by little, right? And over time, just kidnap people for whatever purpose you want. But I think ultimately she's going to expose the TVA, and she may have sent those charges back to places to send people that are now maybe in the TVA back to where they came from.
You know what? And I have another theory to go with that, is that the pen that Owen Wilson that he recognized, right? So he recognized this pen, or he said, I don't recognize this pen, but she had it, and supposedly she only had paraphernalia from like his cases. So do you think that's a pen that he came to the TVA with? It said Franklin D. Roosevelt High School. Maybe Mobius was a teacher, and maybe he was taken from New York, and he came to the TVA with that pen, and she has it, but he doesn't remember it because they wipe their memories. I bet you. I like to think that I'm I'm good at watching TV, and you heard it here first. That's what this is going to turn out to be.
That's a really good. Wow. That does make sense, though, right? Because they made a point of making a big deal about that, right? It wasn't a passing thing.
Right, and and all the people in WandaVision, they were controlled by Wanda. And so and they had to do what she said. And everyone in the TVA is controlled by the Time-Keepers. They have this script written for them to control time. But
do you think they would use the same kind of idea twice? Meaning, like Marvel, that same storyline?
I don't know. But if you look too, everyone in the TVA looks a little bit different in terms of, you know, what generation they could have come from. You know, like,
yeah.
And I'm thinking about the last scene where all the analysts are going crazy because the branches in the timeline keep spiraling out. The one guy, the older guy, he's got this old, you know, like almost like Gentleman's Quartet type mustache going, and then there's this young guy next to him. Like, they look like they could be from completely different eras of time.
So I think your idea about them being snatched from Earth makes complete sense, because like you said, if the Timekeepers, the way they looked looked kind of like lizards, they didn't look human. The Timekeeper. Why are all the people who are at the TVA human? Right? Not even different species of aliens from different places. Everybody is a human, right? So maybe you're right. They grab people from off the timeline. Imagine how much power you can have if you can go throughout time, take whoever you want, and you can also wipe out anybody's memory who came before.
Right? I mean,
maybe that's really what those things are. They're just wiping people's memories. They're not actually changing. They're not putting the timeline back together. They're just wiping the memory of anybody who was there, and also burning up or disintegrating any evidence of them being there.
Right, because think about it. Otherwise, the hunters, everybody in the TVA, they were created just for the purpose to obtain order, and then, as Mobius said, then their job is done. What, are they eliminated then? They're organic life forms, because they get killed by the variant. So they couldn't have just been created in some adult form just to go out and act as hunters. They had to come from somewhere, and I think that's what we're going to find out, is that originally,
if they are a part of the TVA's, you know, the TVA's all-powerful group, or not the TVA, the Timekeepers, right? So powerful that magic doesn't work in their world, and all these Infinity Stones and Tesseract, they have no power in their world. So how is it that when you send your workers out to these timelines, they can be killed?
Yeah, it makes no sense. And one of the things that when you just brought that up, that magic doesn't work in that world, Wanda put runes all over the hex, and nothing worked in there. Yeah. Would one of the Infinity Stones have worked within that hex? Because if that's the case, then the TVA could just be it could just be its own hex with runes surrounding it, meaning no magic works inside. Right?
So really, because since this is before WandaVision, maybe this is the first iteration of the hex, right? And Loki is going through it first.
Right, yeah. I mean, you would think. I mean, it might have something to do with chaos magic or something, but I think we're gonna find out that the history of the TVA isn't what we think it is.
But also, I think what we may want to rewatch that ending scene or the beginning scene of what is it? The Avengers. Not Endgame. What's the one before Endgame?
Infinity War?
Yeah, I think we want to watch that again when Loki's seen. I don't know. That may give some insight to what he learned after all this.
Right. And last thought, I think we can leave everybody with is one of the questions that you have to keep this timeline in place, right? Loki, two things. Loki was plucked from his timeline because he went rogue. He went off course when he took the Tesseract, right? So wouldn't they have had to return Loki back to that timeline to keep it in place? How does the sacred timeline continue if Loki isn't a part of it? Because on the sacred timeline, he has to be a part of it because he helps, he helps them essentially in Ragnarok. So he has to be a part of it, but they never return him to that timeline because he's helping them right now.
That's a really good point. Plus, usually when you go off course, you're in the same place. Your timeline just changes. He left. It went to a whole nother place. Right. So they may have redone that place in Mongolia where they saw him. But did they also go back to the building with the Avengers and the guards who had Loki in custody? Their timeline is forever changed.
Yeah, because he left, and now they're not continuing with the Tesseract as they would have otherwise.
Yeah, so there's no way to fix that. How did they? What was his crime then? Since there's no way to fix him getting away, and everything was supposed to happen, what did he actually do wrong?
Nothing.
Standing up and telling the people in Mongolia, I'm Loki.
Yeah, if anything, they furthered the branch of the timeline by taking him with them rather than returning him. But leave a comment below if you have some theories of your own. If you like this video, take the gavel, hit the like button, smash it, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, tune in for more episodes of Legally Caffeinated as we break down more questions, hopefully more answers of Loki. Thanks for watching.